Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. I recently received my copy of Warhammer Quest Cursed City Nemesis. I've already reviewed it in some depth on the channel. You can find a link to that review in the video description below. But today I wanted to drill into the campaign and storyline a bit more. This video is going to contain heavy spoilers. I'm going to go through every step of the campaign, and right at the end I will reveal how the story ends. This video is specifically for people who never intend to play the expansion but are interested to know how it ends, and those people who don't care about spoilers and want to know more about the campaign before dropping any money on an expansion that is pretty expensive considering what you get in it. Just before we begin, I wanted to mention there is going to be at least one more Cursed City video on the channel. I have said in the past that I think Cursed City is at its best when you are playing through the special narrative missions, those decapitation missions that pit you against bosses or force you to overcome unusual obstacles. I intend to work through the core game and both expansions and figure out a way of playing the game as narratively as possible, effectively cutting out all of the grind for scavenging equipment, holding back fear and influence, preventing calamity, and all those other things that are constantly tugging at your jacket and distracting you from the job at hand. My hope is that I will end up with a decent campaign that encompasses the whole story without any of the fat, allowing someone to play through that story in a more focused way. That's for the future though. For now, let's dive into Nemesis. The main plot is that Ulfin Khan is collapsing into the Shyish Nadir. The city is crumbling and the heroes are desperate to find a way out. They have discovered there is a realm gate somewhere in the city, but they don't know where. So the first stage of the campaign involves gathering information about the realm gate's location. Unfortunately, that information is held by the Viacos vampires roaming the city, so the heroes are going to have to hunt them down first. To begin, you set the calamity level at 1, and then you have a choice of 3 types of journey to go on. The first option is a scavenge mission. There are 8 different maps and you select one at random. There's nothing particularly exciting here. They are regular scavenge missions as seen in the core game, except they make use of the new sinkhole rules to represent how the city is falling apart, and that makes the terrain a bit more treacherous. This seems pretty dull to me. After doing so many scavenge missions in the core campaign, I really don't feel the urge to start running more of them. Plus, it is worth noting this expansion doesn't include any new enhancements. There is nothing new to save up for and buy. As such, I can't shake the feeling this is either A, padding, or B, an inclusion they had to have to cater for a very few number of players who might still need to buy enhancements, but which is something most people won't need or want. Anyway, after you play a scavenge mission, regardless of the outcome, calamity increases by 2. The second journey option is the interrogation, and there are only 4 different maps available. I talked about these in detail in my review, but basically you hunt down and interrogate vampires. There is a special interrogation action requiring 2 dice totaling at least 13 to perform. You roll the quest dice, add the number of wounds you have inflicted on the vampire so far, and if the total is 8 or more, you extract information and kill the vampire. You have to do that 6 times to win, and it is a pretty neat twist on a regular search and destroy mission. After the mission, you get 1 information token if you are successful, and then regardless of the outcome, calamity increases by 2. The third journey type is your firefighting mission, Secure. There are only 4 different maps for this mission type, which seems weird, as if you follow the rules of the campaign, you will end up playing more of these secure missions than anything else, and it would seem like there should be plenty of maps available to try to keep the game fresh. In these missions there are 8 sinkhole tokens. You have to stand adjacent to them, spending 2 dice totaling 13 or more to perform a seal action, and then you roll a 4 or more on the quest dice to close the hole. Close all the sinkholes and escape to win. If you win, calamity decreases by 1. If you fail, calamity increases by 2. And so you are going to bounce between these 3 mission types, mainly, I expect, interrogation and secure journeys. You need to collect 4 information tokens while preventing calamity reaching 10. If you manage to collect all 4 information tokens, then you access the first of 2 decapitation missions. Decapitation missions deviate from the regular rules of play. They have their own unique maps, their own event tables, and the setup instructions list all of the hostiles you will be facing and where they will start the battle, so you don't use any encounter cards. They also have other special rules which add a lot of flavour and character to each encounter, making each new decapitation journey feel like something worth experiencing. And of course, this is also where we are into real spoilers. Through interrogation with extreme prejudice, the heroes have established that the location of the realm gate within Ulfin Khan is known to the Van Alten triplets. Unfortunately, you killed them in the first campaign, so now you have to bring them back to life and ask them some questions. and I have to say, while I have been a bit down on the way Nemesis leans heavily on the old named heroes rather than giving us new enemies to fight, this is a really neat idea. Having to revive a terrifying foe in the hope of extracting vital information is great storytelling and puts our heroes in a real bind. This mission, called a Bloody Ressurection, will see you facing Deadwalkers, Fellbats from Night Wars, Kosagi Night Guard, Corpse Rats and Bat Swarms. During setup you take 3 of the Lurk tokens from the Night Wars expansion, numbered 1 to 3, and you place them in designated locations around the board. These are the remains of the Van Altons. You can't move through these tokens, but if you are adjacent to them you can use a Blood Ritual action, requiring activation dice totaling at least 16. After performing the ritual you flip the Lurk token. If it has a 1 or a 2 on it, you replace the token with a Varkos Vampire. If it has a 3, you replace it with a Vargskyer. Guess you hit the jackpot. To win the game you have to wake up all 3 of the triplets and then slay 1 of the Varkos Vampires and the Vargskyer. At that point the remaining vampire will surrender and tell you what you need to know. To make things more difficult in that aim, and to convince you to move quickly, there is a special Awakened Warden rule. In every event phase you advance the quest token 1 space for each Lurk token. If it reaches space 6, it goes back to the space marked 0, and from then on all hostile weapon actions gain +1 damage and the cycle starts again. This can happen indefinitely, so you really need to get those vampires woken up as soon as possible. Also, this mission makes use of a special reinforcement rule that is pretty much the same across all missions. The hostile groups don't have encounter cards and cannot be driven off. Instead, every time they activate, with the exception of boss enemies like the Van Altons, there is a chance that slain units from the group are redeployed at randomly determined lich gates. I much prefer this way of keeping a steady stream of new enemies arriving on the battlefield. But anyway, our heroes beat up some vampires and get the information they need. They find out the Realm Gate is a tapestry in an ancient vault beneath Ulfenkarn. The portal is inactive, so this leads to the mission The Heavens Open, in which 4 mages from Haven attempt to reactivate the Realm Gate. The problem is, Radukar has sent forces to disrupt the ritual, so our heroes have to fend off waves of attackers long enough for the mages to do what needs to be done. Yeah, it's a tower defense mission. This mission uses Gorslav, Deadwalkers, Halgrim, Ulfenwatch, a White King and Graveguards. The battlefield is set up with the 4 ritualists in the central chamber, with the heroes forming a defensive perimeter. The ritualists must be kept alive at all costs, because in every event phase you advance the quest token 1 space for each surviving ritualist, and you need to get the token to the 10th space to win. Unfortunately, the ritualists are quite squishy. They are treated like heroes by the hostiles, but they only have 4 wounds and they don't roll defense dice. They can crumple under a single good attack in some cases. So of course the heroes have to play human shield, creating a wall between the ritualists and the enemies. That's pretty exciting, and also not that easy because the hostiles get a host of special rules. Deadwalkers get +1 damage on weapon actions when Gorslav is around, Ulfenwatch gain +1 move while Halgrim is around, and if there is a White King on the board, there is a chance that the Graveguard will activate twice per turn. But if you can keep the ritualists alive for long enough, you will make it through the first act of the campaign. The ritualists activate the Realm Gate and it obliterates all the attacking enemies. For a second, the Realm Gate connects to Azir, but then it fades as something seems to drain all of its energy. So now the heroes have to figure out what is draining the Realm Gate's power. And back we go to the grindstone. We now have to find 4 new information tokens while the city continues to collapse. This involves the same cycle of scavenge, interrogation and secure missions. However, there are a few changes. The heroes think the Pact Mortalis is responsible for the trouble, so now instead of hunting vampires, you are hunting necromancers. It's the same process, you just replace instances of vampires with necromancers. Additionally, the secure missions become more dangerous, as in the event phase, heroes on a board tile with a sinkhole take 2 wounds and become trapped. Heroes on a board tile adjacent to a board tile with a sinkhole take 1 wound and become trapped. That rule seems a bit obnoxious to me. Feels like one of those rules that is there to artificially drain your activation dice, and there isn't always going to be that much you can do about it. But anyway, around and around and around you go, trying to collect your 4 information tokens while keeping Calamity below 10. If you do that, you get to play another decapitation journey called the Necromancer's Doom. What a surprise, Torgilius was responsible for the magic draining the Realm Gate. Our heroes need to start considering the most obvious answer when presented with a mystery. So off they go to have a chat with Torgilius. In this mission you are facing necromancers, deadwalkers, Kosagi, Graveguard and of course Torgilius himself, and all you have to do is kill Torgilius. It's never that easy though. In this mission, the 4 mysterious objects are grave sand phylacteries. When you search them, instead of drawing a discovery card, you smash the phylactery. When you defeat Torgilius, if there are still mysterious objects on the board, you remove the closest object and restore Torgilius to full health. In other words, if you don't smash the phylacteries first, you are going to have to kill him 4 times to make sure he stays down. And killing him is the only way to win this mission. To make things tougher, all hostiles cause +1 damage while Torgilius is on the board. Torgilius cannot be stunned, and he gets 2 rolls on the behaviour table every time he activates. He also isn't keen to have a chat with the heroes if he can help it. If there are no heroes visible to him when he activates, he stays hidden, and instead he activates a random hostile group. If you defeat Torgilius, you don't actually kill him. Of course not, we aren't allowed to actually kill anything permanently in this game. Instead, you question him, and he tells you what's going on. Turns out Radukar is draining the power from the Realm Gate to siphon all the deaths that occur within Ulfenkarn into his own body. When Ulfenkarn finally falls into the nadir, he is going to absorb thousands of souls at once and ascend to god status so he can challenge Nagash. And yes, we are now basically playing Blackstone Fortress Age of Sigmar Edition. The plot starts to feel like it's very much a retread of what Blackstone has already done, only without the same degree of care in the build-up. And it's not just the idea of ascension that gets recycled, a lot of the beats from here on start to feel like very familiar territory. But I digress. At this point we are entering the 3rd and final act. The heroes decide they need to split into 2 teams because time is short. One team will return to the Realm Gate and protect it, while arranging for all the survivors at Haven to be ready to move if the gate should open in time. Meanwhile, 4 heroes will hunt down Radukar in an attempt to stop him in a gauntlet comprising 6 separate missions. Choose wisely, because from this point out, those heroes are with you for the rest of the campaign. They cannot die, they will always come back at the beginning of each mission even if they were taken out of action, but you cannot swap them out either. Of course, not being able to die doesn't mean you can't lose, because for the final act of the campaign, you flip the quest card. The card is now tracking Radukar's ascension. It starts at 5 and ticks down by 1 every time the heroes fail a journey and need to restart it. If the tracker ever hits 0, the heroes are out of time and Radukar's plan comes to fruition. So the heroes fly into the city to fight Radukar, but they can't go far in the Adamant, and that means they are going to have to walk the rest of the way, facing a series of tough decapitation missions. And a really interesting idea in this part of the campaign is that in each step of the adventure, a different hero will face a personal grueling challenge. The first journey is Assassinate. You will face a White King, Graveguards, Direwolves, Fellbats and Kosagi Nightguard, and the twist here is that the hostiles have marked a particular hero for death. At the start, you must pick one hero to be marked. All hostiles always treat this hero as the closest hero, and when choosing a target for attacks, they will always select the marked hero. During the game, if you kill a hostile and there are no more hostiles from that hostile group on the board, you advance the quest token by 1 space. If you do this 10 times and the marked hero is still alive, you win. The hero that was marked for death then gains an Exalted token, which they keep for the rest of the campaign and means they will begin each mission inspired. These tokens, while functionally different to secret items acquired by completing missions in Blackstone Fortress, do feel quite similar in application, as they are enhancing particular characters as they head into the endgame. The next journey is called Cursed, and you will be facing Torgilius, should have killed him when you had the chance, all 80 of them, Kosagi, Necromancers, Deadwalkers, Bats, Corpse Rats, and Viacos Bloodborne. The heroes are continuing to hunt down Radukar when one of them is afflicted by the Curse of Years and starts to age rapidly. You have to select one hero who doesn't have an Exalted token to be the victim of the curse, and at the start of each initiative phase, that hero will take 1 damage that cannot be ignored or reduced as they wither away. To get through this stage, you just rinse and repeat the process from the previous stage. Score 10 points by killing hostiles before your chosen hero dies. Do that and your cursed hero gets better, just like after you've been turned into a newt, and then they gain an Exalted token. The third stage is called Trapped. The heroes are still foot slogging through the city, but suddenly the ground opens up and a hero of your choice that doesn't have an Exalted token falls into the depths. The other heroes have to race to find their fallen comrade, who must battle waves of enemies all alone. What an amazing mission idea. You actually have 2 maps on the table. One represents the surface level, where 3 heroes will face Direwolves, Bat Swarms, Fellbats and a Vargskar, while the second smaller map represents tunnels underground where one hero must fight corpse rats and a Kosagi. To find their friend, the heroes on the surface must search all 4 mysterious objects on the map. If they do that, the last mysterious object removed from the board gets replaced by a sinkhole. The hero underground can now make a climb action to reach the surface. If, during an event phase, the lost hero is on the surface, then the heroes win and the lost hero gains an exalted token. The 4th journey is called Tainted. The heroes are still reeling from their last battle when a Varkos vampire leaps out of the dark and bites the hero who still doesn't have an exalted token. The hero now has the Soul Blight curse. Our intrepid adventurers need to find a way to stop the curse before their friend falls to madness, and apparently the solution is extreme violence against all Varkos Bloodborne. In this battle, you will face Bloodborne, Ulfenwatch, a Vargskar, Felbats and Vargeists, and the aim is simple: kill 10 Varkos Bloodborne. Unfortunately, your tainted ally isn't feeling themselves. After each event phase you roll a destiny dice and count the number of spaces the Nightfall token has moved during the journey. If the score is equal to or less than the number of spaces, the hero succumbs to Bloodlust and must make a charge action as though they were a hostile. They will attack unwary heroes using their most powerful weapon action on their character card. Assuming you kill the vampires, the curse is lifted and the final hero gains an exalted token. You have completed the arduous journey to the Ebon Citadel, and now you must face Radukar in a mission called the Final Ritual. Radukar has resumed his wolf form in this journey, but he is also in the process of completing his ritual of ascendance, so he is referred to as Radukar Ascendant in the rules, and he has a host of new powers. And this is it, the big boss fight, the showdown the whole campaign has been building to. And it's a pretty straightforward fight really. You have to kill Radukar before the Nightfall token reaches the Nightfall space. The clock is ticking and you must land a killing blow. Radukar is protected by Kosagi, a White King, Death Guard, Halgrim and the Ulfenwatch, so there are skeletons galore in this beatdown. As I mentioned, Radukar is also pumped. He starts as Radukar the Wolf, but he gains the additional Ascended rule, which means no attack can ever do more than 3 damage on him. Fortunately, he is engrossed in his ritual, so he doesn't activate until a hero enters his line of sight, or until Halgrim and the White King have each been slain at least once. It gets worse though. If you defeat Radukar the Wolf, he respawns as Radukar the Beast, so you swap out his miniature and character card and you have to beat him up a second time. In this stage, you still can't inflict more than 3 damage per hit, and he also gets a new behaviour table which is printed in the mission book. By the way, that's something I did mention in my review video, and something I think is a bit of a cheap move. There is absolutely no reason why Games Workshop couldn't have printed off a double-sided hostile card for Radukar Ascendant, one side for his wolf form and one for his beast form. They could have slipped that in a secret envelope you only open once you reach the final ritual. It's just a little quality of life thing, as you would have all the information you need on one card, but also it's just a little quality thing, something to make it feel like more of a complete package rather than some rules cobbled together from a White Dwarf magazine. Regardless, if you defeat Radukar in his second form, congratulations! You still haven't won. There is a final mission called The Beast Enraged. Like in all good horror movies, the villain always comes back for one last scare. Radukar appears defeated, but he lurches back into action one last time, this time in a brand new form, the Beast of Ulfenkarn. You use the Beast miniature, but there is a new hostile card, and it's printed in the rules. This annoys me so much. That card should be in a final secret envelope. Heck, this whole mission should be in a final envelope. It should be something hidden away as a proper surprise, something you aren't going to accidentally see when you flip through the quest book, something that you have to play through the campaign to earn, something you get to open as a reward, and something that feels like a genuine shock. Imagine how much more compelling this final journey would be if you defeat Radukar, you're instructed to open a final envelope, which you assume is your prize, and then you get another fight to deal with. Games Workshop's execution of this final reveal is poor, and it really does feel like a cost-cutting exercise. Considering the price of this expansion and how light on physical components it is, that's hard to forgive. But anyway, Radukar goes Super Saiyan and you have to beat him one last time. There are no other hostiles and no other rules, it's just a beatdown in the same location as the previous mission. And if you do defeat Radukar again, you get to read the final epic conclusion of the story. At this point, you know everything there is to know about the campaign, so if you are going to play through it yourself and don't want to know the ending of the story, you can safely switch off now. But if you want to know what happens, I am going to spoil the ending right now. Okay? Radukar collapses and releases all the energy he was stealing. The realm gate opens and all the people of Ulfan Khan, along with the heroes who were protecting the gate, escape the city and get to hang out in Azir for a bit. The heroes who defeated Radukar are about to kill him, but you aren't allowed to kill Radukar because he's a named character from the Soulblight army, so before you can, here comes Nagash. He strolls in, takes Radukar away for re-education, and as he leaves, all the undead in Ulfan Khan rise up and kill the heroes. The end. And yes, spoiler alert here for Blackstone Fortress in case you are still playing through that campaign. This is pretty much exactly what happens at the end of the Ascension expansion for Blackstone Fortress, where the heroes prevent the Ascension and then sacrifice themselves so that the survivors and the other heroes that weren't on the quest can escape. Maybe Games Workshop thought it was different enough that people wouldn't notice, but I noticed. I see you, Games Workshop. And for a lot of people, I don't think it will matter that Cursed City feels like it's recycling story beats from the previous Quest game, but it sort of matters to me. I care a lot about narrative gaming, and I love being engrossed in a story. Blackstone was a masterclass of dungeon crawling storytelling, and this, well, yet again it just feels like Games Workshop not caring enough about this product. Maybe that's unfair, but that's how I feel. I do think the Nemesis campaign, the narrative parts at least, is good. I think there are some exciting ideas, and the plot isn't a bad one, but it's playing it safe. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has its Skybeams, Games Workshop has its Ascensions and Martyrs. I guess, ultimately, it just doesn't feel fresh. I suppose that's somehow thematic for a game about the undead. But I have been talking for far too long in a video that I suspect many people won't watch because they want to experience this story for themselves, so I'm going to sign off now. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really enjoyed it, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.